Creations, and today I'm going to show you some of the tools that come in handy when you are wire wrapping. So first of all, I will go over the tools that are absolutely essential. And the first one is flush cutters. These I probably got on Amazon. Nothing too fancy, but these are good for cutting thick gauge wires. I also think you would need round nose pliers. These are for making curls, and so like for something like this, if you're making these curls, you would need round nose pliers for that. And the other one is chain nose pliers, and those just look like this, kind of plain. I actually prefer these tweezer nose pliers, which are very thin and they get in small places. So these are made by Xuron, Xuron. But I have lots of other kinds of the chain nose pliers. I even have some that have notches in them. So if you can see there, there's like little notches that are cut into there, and that comes in handy when you're trying to do something and you want it to be uniform. So maybe you're making a pair of earrings and you want them both to be exactly the same. You know exactly where to put that on the pliers. So let's see, I also have, these are flush cutters by Tronics, and these were probably $65, but they're really good for very thin gauge wire. You wouldn't want to use these on thick gauge because it will ruin them, but these get into tiny little spaces, and if you're wire wrapping a lot, I think it's a good investment. There are lots of round nose pliers on the market, and I've got several that I've just bought at different times. But I did purchase some from Tronics, and I've ended up using them for the most part. I like that brand. There's another type of flush cutter by Xuron, and these are good for really thick wire, cutting really thick wire. The Xuron pliers are not very expensive compared to Tronics. Another tool that I like to use are Nylon Jaw Pliers, and I think I got these at Michael's. I got these when these broke, but then I got a replacement nylon to go in this one. But this is good for if you have a wire that's kind of crooked, you know, it's not straight anymore, you just can do this with it and it will straighten it out. So these are handy to have, but not really essential. These have a little bit different feel to them, and I actually think I prefer these, this brand here. Beadalon is what these are. And then another thing that you might want to have are bail making pliers. So these are stepped pliers, and there's 6 different sizes. So if you're making bails, even if you're making jump rings, that's a good thing to use for that. I have another pair here, and these are the same type of thing, but just a little bit different. And these are by Beatsmith. Again, those are not essential. Another tool that I really like, especially when I was first starting out, is this clamp. And I think it was $7 on Amazon. But when you're first learning how to wire weave, this is very handy. It can be hard at first, especially hard on your hands, and if you're doing it a lot, can be hard to hold on to this wire while you're over here trying to focus on weaving. So this clamp is very handy. You just take the little wedge out and stick your wires in the other end. You want to get them nice and evenly spaced, and stick your wedge in the back. And then you're able to, you can just hold on to this whole thing and your wires are not going to go anywhere. So this is a very handy tool, especially when you're first starting out, but it does save your hand from getting cramped up, and over time I think that can be painful. So another tool that I like having is this Pin Vise. And this one, if you have square wire, and let's say you wanted to, for example, on this one, I wanted my top wire here to be twisted. So in order to do that, I needed to do it before I started making my piece. So you open the Pin Vise, and there's a little space in the top that you put your wire into, and then you tighten this up and until it won't move, and then you just use your pliers to hold the other end steady. Let me grab that in there if I can. And then all you have to do is twist this vise, and it will start making your wire twisted, as you can see here. And the more you twist, the tighter that will get. It can look pretty not as twisted, so you know, it's really up to you. And then you just take it out, and there you have it. So that's really a handy tool to have as well. Then another thing I have that I like are these dowels. They're just different size dowels in this little Velcro bag. And if I am wrapping a round cabochon like this one, and I want to make sure that my wires are gonna, once I have them connected here, that I don't have to bend to make them go around the cabochon just by hand, I can use one of these as a mandrel. So what I do is I check at the end of it to make sure that it's the right size for my cabochon. So this one, that looks about right for this one. And then you can wrap around this, and once you've got your shape, then your cabochon will fit right in there, and you know that it's going to be exact. So these are, again, not essential, but I do like having these, and they also work well for making, if you don't have bail making pliers, these work well for making bails. You just bend your wires over that. And then lastly, if you are going to be doing any hammering of thick wire, then this is very handy, the steel bench block and a hammer. And there are different types of hammers. This one has a ball peen on one end, and you know, you can use this, it's kind of noisy, but to flatten your wires. And there are a lot of designs where this comes in handy. It makes it look really cool. But that's probably down the road when you are really good at wire wrapping and you just want to try something different. You can get the hammer and the steel bench block. So that is it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you.